In 2025, there's no longer any doubt, Taehyung and Jungkook have stopped hiding what they feel.
For a long time now, every moment they share seems to say more than meets the eye. It's not just about the fact that they're often together, but how they behave when they're around each other.
Jungkook has a very clear way of showing that he wants Taehyung around.
Whenever he can, he grabs him, pulls him close, and keeps him by his side. The most interesting thing is that these gestures don't only happen in private or when they think no one is watching. They often do it in front of cameras or surrounded by people.
And that makes it even more evident. They're not hiding anything. They're not afraid of others noticing.
They seem very comfortable being themselves, letting the connection they have shine through.
And it's a connection that not just anyone can have. If one of them moves, the other notices and reacts. If one makes a gesture, the other responds almost immediately.
There's something automatic, as if they know exactly how to act when they're together. This has been seen many times in videos, recordings, or presentations.
Sometimes they don't even need to speak to understand each other.
Just looking at each other or a simple touch seems to say everything. These are small but significant moments. And when we see them from the outside, it's impossible not to notice that what exists between them is real.
They're not pretending, they're not acting. They're just being themselves.
And in that naturalness, Taehyung and Jungkook have shown that they share something deep.
A bond that needs no explanation. This way of connecting is especially noticeable in how Jungkook always seeks to have Taehyung close.
He takes him by the arm, pulls him close, looks at him. And he does it as if it were the most normal thing in the world.
As if he couldn't rest easy if Taehyung was far away.
These kinds of gestures aren't born of a relationship that goes beyond the superficial. They are acts that come from habit, from trust, and from a union that has strengthened over time. When talking about Taehyung and Jungkook, there are moments that speak louder than any words. In a memorable scene, they are seen together in front of cameras.
Jungkook is right next to Taehyung.
At first, he puts his hand on his shoulder, but soon decides to lower it and intertwine it with his. It wasn't a quick or accidental gesture. It was a clear action, done with intention.
They didn't act as if they were doing anything inappropriate. On the contrary, they did so without fear, as if they knew exactly what they wanted to show.
A certain nervousness could be seen on their faces, but not because they were holding hands. The nervousness came from somewhere else, perhaps because of the possibility that, as has happened before, the company would try to separate them or minimize these gestures. But despite that fear, they didn't let go of each other's hands.
This isn't a one-time occurrence.
On the contrary, the physical gestures between them have been constant over the years.
And it's not just ordinary hugs or greetings.
These are touches that show connection, that reflect a relationship where the body speaks freely. Every touch, every glance, every moment they reach out for each other seems to respond to an already established habit.
They don't need to rehearse or plan anything.
They approach each other with the confidence of those who already know each other deeply. The fact that they made this decision in public, without worrying about being in front of cameras, makes it clear that they aren't playing around. What they showed that day was a natural reaction to a constant feeling. The bond between them isn't only visible in their words or in what fans say. It's present in the way they behave around each other, even in situations where others might choose to distance themselves out of pressure or fear. The way Jungkook stopped the conversation and imposed himself on Taehyung to continue practicing wasn't a fit of temper. At the time, Jungkook was talking to a staff member, someone in authority, but he still raised his voice without hesitation.
He wasn't upset.
He knew that if he allowed Taehyung to continue pushing his legs, the pain would only get worse.
And that was a risk he simply wasn't willing to take. This hasn't happened just once. There are several occasions where Jungkook has shown that Taehyung's health always comes first. This isn't a simple gesture of courtesy or professional concern, it's a priority. Jungkook is very clear that Taehyung's well-being is a line that won't be crossed. Not because of rehearsals, not because of commitments, not because of team rules. Whenever Taehyung shows signs of being tired, hurt, or uncomfortable, Jungkook acts quickly. He observes him, analyzes the situation, and makes decisions. It could be talking to the team, changing positions, slowing down the pace of a choreography, or even modifying the environment to make Taehyung more comfortable. None of it is a coincidence. For many people, these actions might seem like small details. But for Taehyungers, these types of gestures have a deeper meaning. They are responses they already know by heart. Jungkook protects Taehyung because he loves him. Because he can't help it. Because his physical well-being is non-negotiable. Because every step Taehyung takes also directly affects Jungkook. If Taehyung suffers, Jungkook feels it. If Taehyung smiles, Jungkook relaxes. What Taehyung and Jungkook have shown in recent months has made it clear that their relationship isn't limited by the environment or the people around them. When they're together, a kind of bubble forms where only the two of them exist. It doesn't matter if they're at an event with thousands of people, on a live stream, or walking through an airport. They always end up creating a space where everything revolves around their bond. This connection doesn't depend on words. It's something you feel and see in their actions. There are moments when one reaches out and the other is already there to respond. There are moments where just by looking at each other, they seem to understand what the other wants. That's not built overnight. It's the result of a bond that has grown over the years, that has strengthened over time, and that needs no explanation. The natural way they interact speaks for itself. Furthermore, it doesn't matter who's present. They don't change their way of acting whether there are cameras or an audience. They remain the same, without trying to pretend. This shows that they're no longer interested in hiding what they have. They don't seek validation or approval. They just live what they feel freely. And that carries enormous weight. It means that what they have between them is solid, strong, and sincere. It also shows in the way their bodies react. If Taehyung leans to the side, Jungkook is already there to follow him. If Jungkook makes a gesture, Taehyung interprets it instantly. These are small details that, when added together, reveal a very deep connection. They're not playing or improvising. They understand each other as if each were an extension of the other. And that doesn't happen if there isn't a special bond. Many of those moments have been recorded. In interviews, presentations, and group events, they always end up getting closer, touching, or seeking each other's gaze. And they do it without fear, without worrying about what others might think. Because for them, that's no longer important. What matters is staying close, being together, staying connected. There's something special about the way Taehyung and Jungkook communicate when they're together. They don't always use words. Often, what's most striking is everything they do without speaking. In every encounter, their bodies seem to have an invisible routine. When one moves, the other reacts. If they look at each other, they do so without seeking external approval. If they touch, they don't do it with insecurity. It's a communication without phrases, but with a very clear message. On stage, in interviews, or even when they're surrounded by people, their way of relating doesn't change. They continue to behave the same, as if the environment has no influence on how they feel. That naturalness is what stands out the most. They're not forcing an image or trying to appear something they're not. Their actions, repeated over time, show a habit that never breaks.
And that habit is being together, touching, seeking each other, completing each other. This type of interaction isn't easy to maintain if there's no trust and a real connection. When one person is attentive to the other like that, when they react without thinking to each other's every move, it's because there's a bond that has strengthened over the years. The respect they have for each other, the way they pay attention to the smallest details, and how they make every shared moment seem intimate even in public, makes it clear that their relationship isn't part of a strategy.
The language they've built between them doesn't need witnesses or explanations. It works on its own.
Through their gestures, they show that their bond doesn't depend on context.
It doesn't matter if they're working, acting, or just walking. The important thing is that they're together, and that they know how to read each other accurately. That only happens when the connection goes beyond the physical. It's a way of being there for each other that's already embedded in their way of being. The gestures between Taehyung and Jungkook aren't improvised. If you watch them closely, you can see a clear, if silent, structure in how they act when they're together. There's a repeated sequence that doesn't require words. It's as if each knows in advance what the other is going to do. And this emotional routine is what ensures that their relationship isn't based on isolated moments, but on a constant language that only those who are attentive can understand. For example, when Taehyung is silent or stares blankly, it's Jungkook who approaches first. When Jungkook tenses or his face changes expression, it's Taehyung who adjusts his tone or posture to balance the energy. It's not something they learned out of obligation. It's something they developed by sharing so much time, by knowing each other so deeply, that their reactions are already part of a silent system of mutual care. This is also evident when they perform. The audience may be focused on the choreography, on the grand gestures, but Taehyung performers see something else. They see how they look at each other between movements. The way they move their lips to ask each other if they're okay. The way they step away from center stage just to have a second of respite together. That kind of connection isn't invented. It's built. And it takes years to form. Even in the most controlled interviews or recordings, where almost everything is measured, their body language breaks the script. Taehyung leans on Jungkook when he needs stability. Jungkook offers him that space without asking for explanations. There are silences that don't bother them, but rather speak for themselves. There are pauses between answers that allow one to understand the other without needing to say more. And when an outsider tries to enter that intimate circle, the connection withdraws, it is stored away. This emotional routine is also visible in the way they arrange themselves in common spaces. In how they sit. In how they search each other with their eyes before speaking. In how one stays still to give the other space. In how, despite all the noise, they always manage to find a moment where time seems to stand still for them.